Hi there. Matt Thazhmon. We're from IO Revolution. I'm going to show you our product WaveLook today. So our goal at IO Revolution is to revolutionize communication, and we believe Wave revolutionizes communication. We've been working with Wave right from the start. Our focus has been the enterprise, specifically Microsoft Outlook and Exchange. All of us worked in the enterprise. We all dealt with a lot of email. We all dealt with shuffling data from Skype to Excel to Outlook to PowerPoint and back. And we felt Wave was a better way, and we've been working on it right from the start. So I'm going to show you three things today. The first thing is our Outlook integration. So we have a product, WaveLook for Outlook. It's available today. You can download it from our website at wavelook.com. Click on the nice download button. It's in beta. So let's take a look here. I have Outlook running. WaveLook for Outlook lets you add your WaveLook account into your Wave account into Outlook. You can add it right into your inbox. So here are my Matt Thazhmon at gmail.com emails in the same inbox with my Matt Thazhmon at gmail.com waves. So that's something that was important. That's something that was important to us because we were tired of having to have Gmail in one browser tab and Wave running in another browser tab. So we integrated it right into your inbox. The other option we have is you can actually have a separate PST file here. So this is a WaveXP test at googlewave.com. That is a separate PST that syncs directly to that PST. So this is Outlook with two users' accounts from Wave integrated into the same instance. So we basically built our own editor. We started from scratch. This is all in C# because Outlook, you have to do everything in C#. And so, for example, here is our rich text editor. This is our standard test Wave. I can come in here. So actually, there's one of our guys editing right here. I can come in. I can edit at the same time. It's just a standard Wave editor that we built from scratch. What's interesting is we also got draft edit working. So I can go into draft mode. Actually, notice that Kevin's actually in live mode, and so he is still typing while I am in draft mode. And then when I'm ready to go, I can hit send. So we modeled this based on how email works, how the enterprise works, how people use Outlook works, and we followed. That's the model we worked on. We also have playback, and we have, so here's playback, for example. So it kind of goes through and shows you all the deltas, and you can go back and forward in time. We have inline comments working, replies, pretty much all Wave functionality, including private replies. So that was our first product that we released. It's WaveLook for Outlook. This was released back in July, and we've seen adoption. And around the same time, we started working on our own Wave server. So I'm going to show you that next. Actually, one last thing. So here is the same Wave in two different accounts. So this is Matt Thazhmon at gmail.com. This is WaveXP test at gmail.com. And it works even inside Outlook, where as I type stuff, it shows up on the other side. This is the standard Wave that everybody loves, but running inside Outlook and Exchange. And the reason is that half the enterprise, I think about 500 million accounts, use Outlook and Exchange. So that's who we're targeting. The next thing that we started working on was our own Wave server. So we got that. We've been working on it for months, and we finally have it working. And so let me show you what that is. So here, like I said, it's all C#, so that's Visual Studio. And that's our server running. I'm going to go to localhost. And we actually have this running in the cloud and also something you can download and install on premises. So I'm going to log in with my WaveLook at WaveLook account, and I log in. Now, so we built the server, and we needed something to make sure our server worked. So what we did is we got the existing Google Web Client running against our server, and it really helped because it helped us validate a lot of the things that we were doing wrong. But basically, because of that, you can now go in here and you can edit waves and do all that fun stuff. So that's our server that we're running. We'll be switching to the Wave in the Box web client, I guess, at some point, although it's in Java and all this is the C#, so we'll have to figure out something there. And then around the time that the Wave project got canceled, we were working on the server, and we decided to build a migration tool because we had a lot of data in Wave, and we wanted to make sure it was preserved. But what was important to us was we didn't want the forking to happen, where once we migrate, now if I have some people who haven't migrated, if they make changes to the one on Google Wave, then I lose them because I've already forked. So what we ended up doing was we ended up creating, so let me open up our other build of the server. We ended up creating a migration for Google Wave, but with two-way sync. And what that means is, so let me log in. What that means is I log in with my Gmail account or my Gmail credentials or any Wave account, or any Google Wave account credentials. That's Gmail, and this is my actual Wave. And I hit migrate. And now, eventually, these are my actual waves from Google Wave running on our server. Any changes I make are actually applied first on our server, but we treat the Google Wave server as the master. So, and basically that allows us to keep running in a two-way sync with Google Wave servers until they go offline, at which point this server will become the master for the Wave. But the advantage of that is if I log into my Wave account, I can, so this is the same Wave that has been migrated, Google Wave on the right, our server running on the left, but I can edit the same Wave on our servers, and we first OT it and store it on our server, send it to Google Wave, and then based on what happens, we go back.
Which protocol do you use to talk to Google Wave?
So we started working on this a long time ago, and there was no protocol. So we reverse engineered the HTTP protocols that the client uses right now. So that's what we're using.
That client, are you proxying the Google client and then?
No. So what we actually have working is two-way sync. So any change that comes through, we first write it to our server and then send it out to Google.
But that client there, that's the GWT client.
Oh yes, it's just we took the JS files. It's all obfuscated,
yeah.
And we're hosting them on our server.
Yeah,
but then it's talking back to our server.
Right.
Okay. So that's what we've been working on: the Outlook for the enterprise, and then our own server, and then migration, because we felt that, like, all of us, we want people to migrate, but no, if you migrate and you can't talk to the people again that you were talking to before, then you kind of have this forking issue. And so this was our solution at solving that. That's kind of what we're working on. Yeah, so any questions? We can download WaveLook today. We're doing a quick survey on Wave usage, so we'd appreciate if people could sign up. And then also, our server and it will be available soon. So if you guys can, if you want to try it out, you can sign up for that there. Oh, thanks. That's something we're working on. It doesn't support it yet, but that's something we're working on. It does support persistence. So, for example, I could have two people, and it's kind of interesting. We came up with our own persistence system, and then we saw the file-based system. It was like almost exactly the same because we had the same thing where I think the only difference is we store a file for a Wave and then a folder for wavelets or something like that. But it was very similar when we saw the spec you put out. Someone else had a question? Okay. Okay. Yeah, if you have any other questions, I'll be around, and just let me know.
I do have a question though.
Okay.
So the current integration in Outlook, what server are you using for that right now?
It works with the Google Wave server or our servers, either one.
Is the server something that integrates with Exchange, or something that has to be installed?
So the server, if you want, can integrate with Exchange so we can get contacts directly. And then from a web client perspective, we're going to be doing an Exchange integration that integrates directly into the Outlook web client. So that will be a direct integration into Exchange. So it's up to you. If you want contacts and the admin and the client access, then you would integrate into Exchange, and you would be able to use the Windows domain credentials.
What's the server that integrates with Exchange? What kind of authentication are you using?
Right now, it's just SSL over HTTP because our server exposes the same authentication as the Google Wave server does. That we basically got it working as the Google Wave server and then made our server do the same thing.
So So the integration with Outlook, if I open up Outlook, am I going to be prompted for using a password in order to get at my waves?
Yeah, so the first time you have to, for now, you have to go in and you have to add an account, and it just asks you for your credentials. But once we have the Exchange integration fully completed, then you'll actually just use your Exchange credentials, as long as you have our server running with the same credentials.
Did you make any changes to the protocol when you were talking to your own server?
No. So we got it working as a Google Wave server and then built our server to match the Google Wave server, which is why the same client can talk to either server. Okay, well, thank you very much. Let me know if you have any questions. We'll be around.